It is Buff McLarge Huge. No, it's Buff Drink Lots and Big McLarge Huge.
Hey, let's listen to some mystery assholes.
You're listening to First Question Podcast on the Dominique Does Life Podcast Network.
Hey, fuckers, how's it going?
Hello, fuckers. Good to talk to you again. How's it going?
Hey, I like that one. Today we're going to be re-recording our 1996 Everest Disaster episode. You can join us from the top. You were waiting for this. Sorry for the wait.
It's been a hard week for, I think the war. We're sorry for the delay, but don't worry. Pope hat's on, Segway's revved up.
We're all exhausted. Our brains are crazy. Just roll with it.
If this is your first episode with us, there's going to be some sad stuff. There's going to be some off-color. There's going to be some random segues. And that's what you signed up for.
This time around, we're discussing the Mount Everest tragedy of 1996. You might be wondering why we're discussing it. It's because I need to get it out of my brain, and I appreciate you for being there with me and you guys for listening.
Oh, dude, you guys put up with how long with Chris Watts infesting my brain? It's the least we can do.
Literally on top of the world, Mount Everest, people have tried for years to reach the summit, and it wasn't until 1953 that it was first ascended, but it wasn't conquered. Oh no. Everest, Sagarmatha, Chomolungma, the great mother goddess whose peak stretches into the troposphere, has never been conquered and will never be conquered. It is said that if the goddess disapproves of your climb, if your motives aren't pure, she may claim you as her own. And she has, with many people. Mount Everest is home to some of the most iconic corpses and dramatic deaths in history. Guys, check out Caitlin Doughty, Doughty, if you want to hear about these iconic corpses. Check her out on YouTube. It's fucking phenomenal. It's literally who these people were, what happened, what happens to bodies on a mountain.
That's pretty cool that it's not just,
That's super interesting.
Jim's over there.
She did this amazing job, very respectfully done when she talks about the body. So check her out on YouTube. I'm obsessed. She calls her viewers deathlings, which I fucking love.
And we got our Hellions.
Yes. I love
Okay.
it.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
going to take this time to remind people that we have a Patreon. So just for
Yeah.
one small donation, you can see this live.
You can see this entire dumpster fire happening live. Anyone whose adrenaline rushes has thought about climbing to the top, but few people make the trip without paying a hefty price. And Beck Weathers talks about this. Listen to him talk about, quote unquote, paying the price. He believes he literally paid his body parts to the mother goddess, to Everest. Real junkies, real climbing junkies who want to reach that 8,000 meter mark. It's not enough just to do that. They want to climb all 7 summits, the tallest mountains on 7 continents, and that includes Antarctica. Look, Antarctica is safe compared to Everest.
I was going to make a couple comments to that.
Go ahead.
In the 7 summits, I did the research behind this. Everest is your last summit. No one just goes, I'm doing the 7 summits. Let's get the hard one out of the way. No,
You're
it's
right.
your last one. Beck Weathers' story and his resilience as a human being is awesome. And every time I hear his name, not out of any jest or anything like that, it's just his story is great. And I love Mystery Science Theater 3000. I keep hearing the space mutiny. So I'll hear Beck Weathers and then another part of my brain will fire Biff McLarge Huge.
I thought it was Buff McLarge Huge.
It is Buff
Buff
McLarge Huge. No, it's
McLarge
Biff
Huge, yeah.
Buff Drink Lots and Big McLarge Huge.
There it is.
Or yeah, it'll be Buff
There.
Weathers. Blast Hard Huge. Everything will ping off because it just fits so well. No disrespect to the man. He deserves nothing but respect, and he's awesome.
He's awesome, and he does make fun of himself. I think he'd be okay with it, to be honest.
He might be.
He might be.
Watch, he's
He's got a
probably like a huge fan of Mystery Science Theater, and he's like, oh, you guys are awesome.
Yeah, it somehow
Yeah.
finds
That'd be
this
great.
podcast, and it just all relates together, and next thing you know, we're headlining at Madison Square Garden.
Right, because that's what happens. That's all this man does now is just scours the internet for podcasts about what happened to
His
him in
traumatic
1996. Hey, let's listen to these three assholes.
Yeah. Let me relive the worst moment of my life again and again.
Like, I realized that I haven't been above 1,000 feet.
Really?
Now, admittedly, when I was like 13, we went to the Grand Canyon, and we did climb a mountain there. So that's probably the highest I've ever been. But most of my life has been a couple hundred feet above sea level for the most part. And like,
I've only been to Mount Hood as the tallest I've climbed. So I say I'm a climber, but I'm not.
I drove to Minneapolis a couple weeks ago, and there's mountains. Using it super loosely because they're like, look, it's Mount blah, 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 with all the fake snow. And there's some pretty cool craggy peaks and stuff like that, which, I mean, it's like, oh, you're like a teeny mountain. Oh, and you know, I have been on one of the mountains, aka volcanoes in Maui. Most of my life has been no higher than 1,000 feet.
And I've driven the Appalachians, and no thank you. You know, I'm good. You have that thought driving, but you still have that intrusive thought as you're winding around the mountain, like, what if my steering locks? And you have, out of nowhere, you'll just be jamming to CCR, driving, just be like, this sucks. I don't want to. What if my steering locks? And that's what's, I'm good with flat ground, mountains.
I have driven the switchbacks, which is scary as fuck. Like in Utah, Zion National Park, like you said, if your steering goes out.
One of the mountains that I was on in Maui, there was a sheer face of rock heading up and a sheer face of rock heading down, and the width of a one-way road. And fun fact, it's a two-way highway. And that wasn't the road to Hana. The road to Hana is a national highway. Fun fact, it's a dirt road for several miles.
No,
yeah.
I'm
so
good.
I've done that. I haven't climbed it. I've been in a car, and then I was horseback. I went down on a mountain on horseback, which was fucking terrifying.
Well, speaking of things fucking terrifying, we have a bunch of people who are deciding to climb the tallest peak in the world. That keeps building, mind you.
Just to put this giant-ass mountain into perspective for everyone, that Everest is the world's tallest mountain. It does literally stretch into Earth's troposphere, and space literally bends down to meet our atmosphere at Everest's peak.
They say that when you're up there, every climber I've ever read about or heard speak that's done Everest, interestingly enough, somebody just did Everest who will never talk about this because he was blind. Someone from Chicago just summited Everest this year. He's blind. He won't be telling us what I'm about to say, but a lot of the climbers say that you're literally in amongst the stars. You're looking around and there are stars almost stretching down around you, and that the moon looks absolutely huge.
You could probably fucking touch it. You're so high up there.
That's all beautiful. And I'm sorry, my devious mind went to, but really, did he summit Everest, or did they just get bored after like 5 days and we're like,
dude,
we're here?
Good job, sir.
Yay!
Walked him a few steps a day.
You're doing so well without oxygen. Good job. Oh yeah, because fun fact, segue, Everest is so high, you can't get oxygen up there. You have to literally walk the whole way to the top of Everest so your body gets used to the high altitude. Because if you don't get used to it and build more red blood cells, you will just die. It's the equivalent of getting the bends if you're scubaing and you go up too fast.
Correct. If you were to be dropped off, even in one of the towns that has an airport that's close to the mountain and you hadn't spent time in Kathmandu for a while and just acclimated, you would get sick. But yeah, if you just flew yourself or were flown to base camp, you would be dead within 8 to 10 minutes. Beck Weathers had said. He's a doctor, so he would know. You'd be dead. It'd be very, very painful too.
I do want to talk about what I think is the most interesting fact, because it was the thing that really put the height of this in perspective for me. The summit of Mount Everest sits at 29,700 feet. The cruising altitude for 747s is 30,000 feet, which means planes need to fly around Mount Everest. You can't fly over it.
Correct.
And you are walking that high. You are walking to where planes fly.
You are walking, yes, to the cruising altitude of a 747. Just think about that.
And
Right.
you have to prep for this. And Dominique, that's really heavy. If you just got if you thought you could get just dropped off and walk up Everest, like here we go,
Here's
dead.
my photo op.
I think we need something to cleanse the palate after that, because this is a tragic story. So, this being the year 1996, the song of the year was the Macarena, which hit #1 on the Billboard charts in almost every country and hit top 10 in almost every country except one, where it hit 16. Guess the
What
country.
country? Ukraine. I don't know.
No,
China.
Canada.
They're so much smarter than us.
How was it Canada?
And on top of that, even though it was #1 on the Billboard charts, it only hit #5 in Hot Latin Tracks in America. So what 4 songs are we missing that top the Macarena in the Latin market?
Wait, are you going to save these for the next palate cleanser? I think you should. Top song of 1996 was Don't Speak by No Doubt, which was my...
Let's go back to Everest.
All of the drama happens in a specific area. And really quickly, guys, if you haven't yet, pause this and go over to our Instagram page, First Question Podcast on Instagram. And I've put together a video where I take you through Google Earth and show you the route from the city to Lakla, to the base camp, to Camp 1, or to Advanced Base Camp, depending on what side you're climbing it from, to Camp 1, 2, 3, 4, Summit, and back down. So I show you where these people are. You can physically see what's happening and where, so that you're not like, wait, what is Camp 1? What is Camp 3? Where is this?
And you had a very nice narrator voice with it. I do have to say, it was very calming.
Thank you. I did want to not have it be like, and then, because it's not simple enough.
Not like when I did our wrestling intro for 3 douchebags.
Between camps 3, 4, the Hillary Step, and the Everest Summit.
Boom.
Oh, you're going in.
So this is all happening between Camp 3 and the Everest Summit, which is called the Death Zone for good reason, like Sara just said. Yeah, literally, like, is it 30%, I want to say, of the oxygen that you can actually me on that. You're taking 5 or 6 breaths minimum, and that's if you're in good condition and good health between every step. And at this point, you can't digest food. You can drink your tea and you can drink your water, but nothing's penetrating. So you're dying. Your body is using up its fat stores. You're more than likely to lose 30 to 40 pounds, even if you're very thin to begin with.
Do you know what I would spend almost $1 million on?
Nothing.
Not this, #1.
Not this. Yeah.
I give myself a really nice horse.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But the other thing that I did want to talk about before we really get into it is Mount Everest Base Camp, which is on the Nepal side, sits at an altitude of 17,900 feet, which is higher than most mountains. John Krakow talks about how being at base camp was probably the highest he had ever been. And he's like, well, fuck, now I got to go higher. But what's more impressive is Mount Vinson, which is the highest mountain in Antarctica. And what I think is very interesting, just to get some more numbers on this, is Mount Everest Base Camp on the Nepal side sits at an altitude of 17,900 feet, which is higher than most mountains. John Krakauer, who wrote Into Thin Air, talks about how this is higher than most of the mountains he's ever climbed.
That guy.
What's more impressive, I know that fucking guy.
I know.
But what's more impressive is Mount Vinson, the highest mountain in Antarctica, and Mount Puncak Jaya, which is the highest mountain in Australia, aren't even as tall as Everest Base Camp. Both of which, Mount Vinson is 16,050 feet and Puncak Jaya is 16,024 feet.
Which is, admittedly, they're both extremely high, but Everest
Right.
more,
Everest is like,
completely.
hold my beer.
Yeah.
Aconcagua, and that's in Argentina, is 22,837 feet, and the third is Denali, or no, it's also known as Mount McKinley in North America. Obviously, we're talking about the 7 summits here. That's 20,310 feet. And then all the 7 summits were first ascended by Richard Bass in April of 1985. April 30th, 1985 was when that record was first made. And I believe he did Everest last, like you said.
Yeah. I think most people do. And usually to prep for Everest, they do Everest's like sister peak, which is the second highest mountain in the world. And sometimes they say that that one is even harder to summit. Yeah.
It is.
Just because of how the crags actually like geologically are built or whatever.
Yeah, you could slip right down into one. And
that's bullshit. That's bullshit. This sister was harder. No, you climbed Everest. Fuck off. You did something that a lot of people will never do, and someone like me never even wants to think about doing, and you're going to say your prep was harder?
It is more technically difficult. They're not saying Everest is easy.
Okay, so there are two different faces. That's a good point that you brought up, because there are two different faces of the mountain. Well, there are three, but there are two climbable faces. There's the Lhotse face, which is what people normally do, and then there's the north face of the mountain, which is mainly something that ice climbers like Uli Steck do. And Uli Steck actually did it in record time. Like, he climbed his ass up there with ice axes, just hanging straight off into thin air, and got up and down within a couple of hours, which was insane.
So
Sadly,
you know that gif of that octopus that's just like scuttling away, going nope, that's me right now in my brain. Nope.
He better
me right out of there.
Nope.
If that's the case, that man is the inspiration for every one of those Ricola commercials from the 90s. Like, he better have gotten to the top of the mountain and yelled Ricola and then straight back down, because it's old. Now he needs a Ricola.
And I'm not afraid of heights. Like, heights usually don't bother me, but sheer face of ice.
No, thank you. And keeping in mind the glaciers move.
A whole lot of fuck that. I think the only person who technically should be equipped to do this is Elsa from Frozen, because the cold never bothered her anyway. Come on, she'd make some stairs and walk her ass up there. Walk her little blonde ass up there and be like, the cold never bothered me anyway, as everybody else is like dying in a windstorm. Changing her hair too.
Every time the costume changed, she claimed another soul from someone who fell on the mountain. Elsa is the queen of Everest. We have solved the mystery. Thank you very much for listening.
Bye.
Keep asking questions, guys.
Welcome back to your answers. These are literal superhumans who do this stuff. And by the way, Uli Steck died. George Mallory in 1924. Bad time of year for this attempt, by the way. June 8th to 9th, 1924, George Mallory and Andrew Irvine climbed Everest. It is believed now, Nova found out in 1999, when they did an expedition to find Mallory and Irvine's bodies, that they did summit and died on the way back down, which is what most people do when they're climbing Everest if they die. It's not usually on the way up, it's usually on the way down. Getting up is only getting halfway there when you're climbing any kind of a mountain. They found Mallory at around 27,000 feet, which likely that he successfully summited. And another little factoid, we talked about base camp. Advanced base camp is on the Tibet side. Nepal, Tibet, and China are where the Himalayan mountains come together. Each country owns portions of the land on and around these mountains. Advanced base camp is on the Tibet side. Nepal is where base camp is. And advanced base camp sits at 20,800 feet. Like Sara said, it's higher than most mountains. Advanced, as you can tell by the name, is slightly higher. It's slightly more advanced up the mountain. Although either way, most people do come up the Lhotse face. So whether you're advanced base camp or base camp, you're still going to intersect through the ice fall and all of that. The characters here, it's the guides on the mountain that year are Rob Hall and Scott Fisher, Ian Woodall, Makalu Gao, and some unnamed Taiwanese guides that worked with him. And Makalu Gao was Taiwanese team leader, and Makalu obviously took his name from having climbed Makalu, which is really close to Everest and Lhotse. The climbers were Dr. Beckett Beck Weathers, John Krakauer, who's the author of Into Thin Air, Andy Harris, Yasuko Namba, Anatoly Bukreev, Mike Truman, rescue coordinator, Lena Gamelgard, Lou Kasishke, Mike Groom, Frank Fishbeck, John Cass, Martin Adams, Kiev Schoening, Pete Schoening, Tim Madsen, Dale Cruz, Makalu Gao, Ming Ho, Chen Yunnan, and then several potential unnamed Taiwanese climbers. And then the Sherpas are Sardar Lopsang, Jongbu Sherpa. They do have similar names. It's a tribal thing, and it's about what their family members have accomplished, passing on that energy from generation to generation. Keep that in mind. We've got Big Pemba, Nawang Dorji, Nawang Siakya, Nawang Tendi, Tashi Chering, Tendi, and Nawang Topshe. We're not going to talk too much about Ian Woodall, except to say that this guy led the South African team, and spoiler alert, he's not even a fucking South African. He lied.
Snidely Whiplash!
Yeah,
Everything he did is Snidely Whiplash, Dick Dastardly. He just lost in wacky races, winning the Everest Challenge.
He's not wrong, because he kind of was the evil guy in all of this.
Yeah,
he's kind of a dick.
Mustache and laughs like,
He's kind of a dick.
Well, kind of, yeah, absolutely. So the story around him is that he leads his team, by the way, who he put together because this was just after apartheid was ending, and he was like, we're going to put together a multi-ethnic, multiracial team, and we're going to represent South Africa. Well, he firstly lies completely about who he is, and a journalist has to discover that this motherfucker is not even South African. He's British.
this man's name is Clancy, and he's from London. He's never even seen a mountain.
Well, but you're right. He even lied about his mountaineering experience, which, thank you. His team somehow successfully does reach Camp 4. They stay there and wait out the weather, which is not actually a great idea, but in this case, it worked out. And most of his team does safely reach the summit and turn around, but the whole situation is ill-advised.
Fuck, that actually worked?
That's how I look at it.
Sir, you've climbed mountains. Yes, I climbed mountain big, tall, huge. Okay, we're gonna
see that hill out back? I climbed that mountain.
Yeah. Oh, you're gonna give me money? Yeah, I definitely did that. Yeah. John, new character that we haven't introduced yet. John, what's a mountain?
They were just one of the teams.
That's true.
Unfortunately, they were, we'll be nice and say, the amateur team.
Mm-hmm.
There was the Mountain Madness team and the Adventure Consultants team.
Taiwanese, which
right.
Really
well,
know.
John Krakauer, who wrote the book, went with the Adventure Consultants team, and they were a private company that would take you and guide you as a private citizen to the top of the mountain. And Mountain Madness is the same type of business. Taiwanese climbing is more of a quote-unquote scientific type mission.
You're right.
And if it wasn't scientific, it was more like a, hey, this is awesome for our country's morale and that sort of thing. Government-led thing opposed to a, hey, I'm a rich mountaineer and I'm bored. I'm a climb Everest.
I don't think there is something as a poor mountaineer, because these people paid top dollar to do this, knowing every risk that went into climbing Everest. It wasn't that these people went in blind, like, it's going to take a weekend, maybe a long weekend. Hey, I need to take off work Monday. No, they knew what they were getting into, which makes this whole thing even more tragic.
It takes at least 2 months to climb up and down Everest. You have to take a leave of absence from work. Number 2, to actually get the proper documentation from whichever country you decide to enter from, it's, I think at the time it was close to $50,000 per person. Plus, then you have to pay
hire a guide
the company that you're going with. So either the Mountain Madness team or the Adventure Consultants team. And then you have to pay more money because you have to pay for expenses and the Sherpas and all of this other stuff. It's at least $100,000.
You can't count out the base camp gift shop.
Dysentery you get in the little mountain villages on your way up there.
That's what they say. And guess where you shit, wherever you're standing.
Right.
Well, once again, I think we've reached a moment for another palate cleanser. The top grossing movie in...
What eat out the Macarena?
I don't know. I tried looking it up.
What have you been doing?
I'm
I'm supposed to look this up.
I have now the other one won't go as well, but the top grossing film of 1996 is one of my favorites, Independence Day. Incidentally, the aliens from Independence Day were known as harvesters. And apparently they stayed on the planet for 15 years after the War of 1996. But yeah, apparently the aliens in the Congo were the ones who sent out the distress signal to bring on the second movie.
So that's our happy corner fun fact. We've got a few more for you. I'm not going to go into every single team and team member because I've got everything down to a science over here on First Question Podcast program notes. Suffice it to say that, like Sara just introduced, we've got the Mountain Madness team. We just named everybody a minute ago. Adventure Consultants, Woodall's quote-unquote South African team, the Makalugao Taiwanese team. May 6, 1996 is when it started. The summit attempt starts, and everybody has to trek to base camp. Like we talked about, you can't just be dropped off there. You've got to trek from wherever you came in. You can usually get a ride from Kathmandu and then go from one of the smaller towns and trek to base camp, which is a beautiful, stunning hike. Summit attempt actually starts on May 6th as they start coming up and down from base camp. When we left base camp, says Neil Beigelman, guide for Mountain Madness, Scott Fisher's team. We were all wary, of course, of the mighty Everest in front of us, but certainly we were filled with hope and anticipation, and off we went. So this is kind of the vibe that you get when you first start.
Part of me is like, it would be cool just to go to base camp, and I'd be real happy just going to base camp. And the other part of me is like, I would still have to spend close to $100,000
just to go to base camp. You may need the permit, but I don't think you do unless you're attempting to summit the mountain. Which
oh really?
Yeah, and if you sign up to help clean up trash, you could even get paid for going to base camp.
Yeah, but I still have to actually get to fucking like Nepal. I don't want to know how much that costs.
I don't either. It sounds like a headache, but it, on the other hand, it's like it would be cool to do that trek, but
it would be cool, but I don't think it's getting the worst stomach bug of my life cool.
No. I mean, I don't think so. I don't want
and
that.
I really like having some kind of potty.
He said you go where you're at, and sometimes I've heard from climbers that have done it, you either shit your pants or piss yourself because you are in an unsafe place to unzip. So that sounds fun.
Right, because you could be like that guy. Well, and I shouldn't say that Krakauer had dysentery because we don't know what he had. He just had a terrible, terrible stomach. And my brain, of course, goes to Oregon Trail because, fun fact, I was born in the 80s, grew up in the 90s.
Me too.
So Oregon Trail is a thing. You sat there and you're like, God damn it.
No.
Sitting there in fourth grade going, shit.
I know. Or the oxen died trying to ford the river. It's like, God damn it.
I think the one that I got that I was like really bummed about was like gun misfired. It was something like that. And I'm like, I got shot? I mean, at least it wasn't dysentery this time.
Yeah, that sounds like a drawn out ass death. No, thank you on that. Shitting myself to death. And no, thank you.
Right. Krakauer talks about how one of the guys went outside to relieve himself and he didn't have his boots on. He just had the boot inserts on and he slipped and fell off the side of the mountain while he was trying to go to the bathroom.
You have the opportunity to literally shit on your face while you're following down a mountain.
God. And I don't want to know what ends up going through your head as you're falling into the abyss.
And shitting yourself.
Beau Bergdahl, who was captured by the Taliban back in the 2000s, he talks about how he fell off the side of the mountain in Afghanistan. And he goes, I fell long enough to think to myself, wow, I've been falling a long time. He ended up surviving that fall. I guess he really fucked up his leg bad. And then he survived by himself, living on dew like a week before the Taliban ended up finding him again.
And on that note, on September 8th of 1996, everyone's favorite blue dog debuted on Nick Jr. Blue's Clues came out in 1996.
I love Blue.
Oh my god, we were just talking about that at work the other day. Somebody brought mail over, and he goes, every time I get mail, I think to myself, I just got a letter. I just got a letter. I just got a letter. Wonder who it's from. Him and I are about the same age, and the other guy in there is about 10 years older than me. So he totally was like, what is this from? And we're like, where have you been?
Come on.
All right.
May 7th, 1996, the day after the climb starts. And FYI, the reason it takes so long is you're going up and down, up a little further and back down, up a little further the next day and back down to acclimatize and to make sure that you are able to safely complete the summit on summit day. So this is why it's like, okay, why didn't they go too far on May 6th? Well, they were just starting their climb. So they went up, came back down. Then May 7th, the team go, okay, we're good. We have made it to Camp 1 and back safely. Let's go back up to Camp 1, and then maybe we can go to Camp 2. Some people will do that. Some teams will do that on the same day. Others will wait a day in between, going camp to camp. So they go up on May 7th of 1996, and their summit date that they are planning is the 10th. So it would make sense that they started their attempts on the 6th. Okay, so by the time the 7th rolls around, they plan to summit. 3 days later, they take a rest after they arrive at Camp 2. Then on the 8th, brutal windstorm rips through Camp 2. And this is really common. Forest wind shear can be worse than a Category 5 hurricane. It can rip a 200-plus pound person off their feet and just send them into the chasm. So that's always serious stuff.
And once again, let me reiterate with nope, 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 nope. Yeah, like none of this sounds fun.
No, it
None
does
of this
not.
sounds fun at all.
It sounds beyond challenging. So, like, I get that you're challenging yourself, but holy fucking fuck. Like, this is an expensive way to commit suicide. I don't get it. Like,
Wait, so can I do a palate cleanser after that one?
Please.
Of course.
So not only did Blue's Clues debut in 1996, in February of 1996, Pokemon debuted.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Also Fox News.
Oh.
Right. But Pokemon!
Pokemon! May 8th, 1996. Brutal windstorm. They were trying to get up to Camp 3, and they have to go back down to Camp 2 because the windstorm is too much. And on that same day, Scott Fisher makes the call, okay, we're going to go ahead and try again. We're going to just turn right back around and go up to Camp 3. They collect themselves and go. They don't rest for another day. They just turn right back around after failing to get up there and go again. You can tell that Fisher and Hall are very serious about getting their teams up there. And Rob Hall and Scott Fisher, who lead the team's Adventure Consultants and Mountain Madness, respectively, know that this is going to be big. They are the people who started this off as a big tourist thing. This was not such a thing before them, so they know that the summit attempt counts, and they really want to get everybody up there and back, partially for the publicity for their businesses, and for they both have young families.
Was this their first attempt with clients?
I didn't think it was any of their first attempts with clients. I thought they had all done it before, but they were getting the farthest this time.
Yes, correct. Yes. And okay, Rob Hall had already tried to take Doug Hansen up there, the postal worker who was climbing with him, up there the year before, because he had to turn him around, and because this guy was just a regular everyday working man who had to raise funds. A bunch of elementary school students in his town helped him to raise the funds to go back up there. And he's like, I just want to prove to these kids that anybody can climb and get to the summit of Everest. So obviously Rob Hall, having taken him once and having failed, was like, yeah, let's get you back up there. I'll give you a discounted rate. I know you've been fundraising to get here. He had gone with clients before, but not like this. Fisher, I believe, had taken clients up as a guide, but maybe not as like the head.
As the lead. Yeah, that
Yeah.
that is sticking out in my head too.
With everything that happened, there is almost a novice experience to it because it's their first time guiding. It's their farthest they've gone.
But in no way would I ever call them novices.
But it's like that point when you're like, I made it. I'm trying to go farther to prove that I'm better than everybody else.
Right. Well, but I think
Hubris.
it's important to
It's
keep in
hubris.
mind that everybody that was guiding, they were basically the best climbers
in the world.
of the time. At that point in time, they were the best climbers, period. I did learn one very interesting fact about mountaineers while reading John Krakauer's book.
Yeah,
They're catty fucking bitches.
They are.
As Krakauer says several times in his book, he does talk about how well respected the guides are and the Sherpas are, that they're very good at what they do and they're very well respected. It's like, but you know what? Nobody else really knew what they were doing. He did speak very highly of
She was one of the
Yasuko Namba. He spoke very highly of Namba and how she was probably, other than the guides, probably the most experienced, the strongest climber. And then he was probably the most experienced climber after that. He heavily implied that.
Yeah, he did heavily imply that.
Wasn't this the guy who was like, he couldn't decide on what team to go with?
Yes.
Like,
yes.
And I think in the last
wasn't so
episode
much-
I referenced, like, he was like, I woke up on Saturday morning deciding which team that my experience could help better.
But it wasn't so much he couldn't decide. It was the magazine that he was
yeah.
working with was trying to cut deals with both companies. He did have a lot of low-key opinions. Not that he talked shit, but he kind of threw some shade.
He was kind of like, I thought, and I don't know that this was true because I think other climbers have said maybe they didn't agree, but it sounds like Krakauer kind of thought that Scott Fisher was a bit of a show-off or he was too showy. But he was very experienced. I don't see him that way, but okay. He's spent more time with them. I don't know. Maybe Krakauer's.
That's his job. He's a professional climber. You hired him to bring you to the summit. Yeah. So guess what? You pay. If I go build something for somebody who paid me to build something, and they're like, yeah, he was kind of a know-it-all. Yeah.
Yeah, they fucking know-it-all. Yeah, true.
Right. I do want to say that this is, of course, our impression from the implication in the book. It's not like he outright said it necessarily verbatim. This is just our analysis of what was in the book.
But he did seem very, like he was questioning everyone else's expertise. And I remember him making a comment. And again, this is not his exact quote, so don't think I'm trying to quote him exactly, but he made some comment along the lines of like, Beck Weathers was just some rich Houston doctor. And I'm like, wait a minute, no, Beck Weathers had done most of the other summits and had been climbing for like 20 years. Like, he's awesome.
Yeah. And this was the second time Beck had tried to attempted the summit?
Yeah, Buck Hardpack was a great man, all right?
Buck Hardpack.
Buck Hardpack.
Nice.
He was an awesome person. He still is. And he had attempted Everest before and had done Antarctica and South America. And it's like, geez, he's not exactly a slouch, dude. Like, chill out, Krakauer.
Right. He did several of the summits.
Yeah, just saying he sounds like a Houston doctor makes him look like Doug Dimmadome coming in climbing gear.
Yeah, this is the kind of stuff that happens on the mountain. There's a lot of like intimate, not necessarily fighting, but like back and forth and a lot of personality stuff. And climbing is on its face a solitary sport, so it's hard for these people to work as teams.
Which is the ultimate beautiful irony in it, is you can't get to Everest alone.
Right. Correct.
You need those people you're being catty with and, you know, trying to one up and trying to Karen and ask to talk to their manager and they don't know what the hell's going on. You're going to need that person when you're tied to them and they're supporting your weight.
Yeah.
He did say that part of the reason he felt the way that he felt is because he did most of his climbs solo or with one other person that he knew really well. Whereas there's a lot of other climbers that specifically go in teams. He was one of those people that went solo, where not everybody as a mountaineer goes solo.
That actually makes a lot of sense, and it does give his perspective some weight, I guess.
And like,
Yeah.
I get it. I was never good at team sports. I didn't like team sports.
Same.
Primarily because it didn't matter how good I did if everybody else fucked up. I liked horseback riding so much is because I had one teammate and it was under me.
Yeah.
And if we screwed up, it was both of our faults usually, or it was just my fault. There's a better reason. So I can understand to an extent.
Right. And you can only blame or give credit to yourself. And then,
Exactly.
like you said, your horse, and then other random factors. It's not like, oh man, my teammate fucked up and we had to abandon the climb. On May 9th, then, of 1996, following the timeline, after they get up to Camp 3 through that windstorm, this is the point at which they've crossed through the Khumbu ice fall and they're up high into the mountain and they have to put on their down suits. The combined teams set out from Camp 2 to Camp 3. Again, Camp 2 is at 24,500 feet. Camp 3 is at 26,000 feet. Interestingly, down near the Khumbu ice fall before this, the reason that they didn't have their down suits on until now is that it can actually be piping hot. It can be in the 80s and 90s Fahrenheit because of the reflection from the sun onto the ice. You can both be sunburned and get frostbite at the same time.
Snow and winter just sucks hard, period. Because like even here in Illinois, if you're not careful, you could still get sunburned in the middle of winter because of how the sun reflects.
I got frostbite hiking and climbing myself this year.
I've gotten first-degree frostbite just working in a barn. My fingers will turn blue sitting in my chilly office.
With the sun's reflection at 90 degrees, what's the snow blindness like? Like, you have to wear those high-strength
fucking killer.
You gotta, like,
just
the heat alone will make you want to strip out of your suit that's going to save your life. So that has got to be not only one of the most mentally torturing things. We're taking for granted things like if you're wearing anything on your head and you get sweaty and you pull that, they can't see me, but you like do the brush your hair back move because your hands are.
We talked about that at some point, I think.
Yeah.
You do that on the top of Everest, your head's gonna look like Sub-Zero just teabagged you.
All of this does not sound like a fun vacation.
No, it does not.
Like at first it's like, ooh, 2-month leave from work. What would I do?
And like this challenge.
Climb the top of a fucking mountain and cheat death every second of every day? No, I'm good.
Same.
Sounds delightful.
Someone slides down Everest. This is a lot of fun!
Like, woo! That's the last you ever hear from them again.
That's the part where he talks about how he went down the water slide.
And this is the part of the episode where I broke Sara.
Yep.
John Vignette, it was the funniest man alive. We saw him live once. I thought Matt was going to fall off the balcony. This is the guy that goes on about how he was a larger man. He goes, yeah, let's put me in a Speedo and walk me around a water park. Don't think about it.
Oh,
he picked up so much speed, he busted through the fence and going through the parking lot. I was in lot A, B, C. Oh, God, now where am I? H-I-J. That's the one where he talks about the Free Willy, too.
Yeah. All right, but
I think you would definitely have time at that point to think about, like you said, I've been falling for a long time, like Beau Bergdahl, like, gosh, I wonder when it's going to stop. And then.
So, to borrow a quote from the great Gonzo, I wonder how far you would plummet before you black out.
Well, they do say in instances of people who jump off a building, they normally die of a heart attack, not the impact. I think once you hit terminal velocity, I don't think you will actually feel yourself turn into pancake batter.
Nope.
But March 19th and April 3rd of 1996, not only were the Menendez brothers convicted of first-degree murder, but we caught the Unabomber.
Uncle Teddy.
Positive things that happened earlier that year. This, not so much. May 9th, 1996, all the combined teams are leaving Camp 3. Like I said, they don their suits. They've already made it through the ice fall, and they're getting up close to the yellow band in the Geneva Spur. From what Neil Weidelman, who is a guide for Mountain Madness, says, they headed up toward the yellow band in the Geneva Spur. Around the Geneva Spur is the south col of Everest, and he says, I was the last to leave the camp. Camp 3 kind of headed up at my own pace and started catching up and collecting people as I went. I definitely could feel the altitude and strenuousness of the climb. And climbing about 24,000 into 25,000 feet, that's where the death zone starts. He says, I don't care who you are. It is really, really hard. It's challenging and it's hard work. People think of the South Col because it's talked about so frequently as being a quote unquote safe haven. But there's only 14 places on Earth higher than the South Col. It is not a livable environment. It's very harsh. It's very windy. It's this huge saddle formed by the Lhotse face, the mountain next to Everest. And it's the fourth highest peak in the world. The winds and air just swell up in the Western Cone and spill over this thing in the Venturi effect, and it just scrapes the ground bare of snow and ice. So it really just, like I said, it can pick somebody up and move the wind. And so it scrapes everything off the ground. It's just a sheer face of just ice at this point.
So
this is why Snidely, Whiplash, and Monkley turned around at this point. We're like, yep, we made it.
Pretty much. Well, for a while they turned around, but yeah.
So to quote the great Piglet, it's a blustery day out there, huh, Pooh Bear? It's Wednesday. We've been watching a lot of Winnie the Pooh here.
Wednesday, oh my
yeah,
God.
there's a whole part.
Shut the fuck up, Piglet. You know,
Pooh with his pot of honey.
Eeyore's still flying somewhere. Just, oh, here we go.
We're all gonna die.
Oh, father. Actually, he got stuck up in the tree that one time, and that was problematic.
Yeah, so how the fuck is he going to get down from Everest?
So fuck that. He can't bounce down. Rue did fine.
Rue would do fine.
Yeah, look out for those wiry fuckers.
Thank you, man. The first step was Sandy Hill, formerly Pittman. Now she's Sandy Hill again. That first step out of Camp 3 on May 9th was a step into a place that I've never been. It was also the first time that we were using supplemental oxygen. Like Sara said, you have to use that pretty much up there, which is something else that I have never done. Using that device is a very scary thing because it's your lifeline. That's it. But you realize your air and with it, your capacity to think and move and reason and everything else is coming, at least in small part, and maybe in greater part, increasingly greater part, the higher you go from what's being delivered by the mechanical device in that can. And that's a very slender thread to be hanging on to. That is like such a succinct quote. Holy shit. More people talk about the wind and how bad it was. Beck Weathers is saying that there's a crowd of people going up and then back down, that they struggled all the way back up to Camp 3, and that he felt like if all of this kept up, that they would end up having to turn around. And again, Beck Weathers is with the Adventure Consultants team led by Rob Hall. May 9th, 1996, 4 p.m. Taiwanese climber Chen Yunan, that we just referenced, dies after slipping and falling into a crevasse while exiting his tent to relieve himself and failing to put on his crampons and boots in so doing. Having survived the initial fall, Mr. Yunan assures his teammates and his team leader that he'll be okay and that he'll follow them up to Camp 4 later on. Their team's attempting to summit from the South Col at that point. Then between 4 and 5 p.m. on May 9th, 1996, Taiwanese team leader Makalu Gao reaches Camp 4 with his team and then realizes something's wrong when Chen Yunan does not make it up there as promised. Around 4 to 5 p.m., says Makalu, they told me Chen Yunan had died. The guy who told me this was crying, and I was in Camp 4 and had no idea what to do. The two Sherpas with me in the camp also knew what had happened, and at that moment my mind was empty and I didn't know what to do next. And the wind was blowing stronger outside. The next morning, the two Sherpas, Minma and Linma, told me that it was a bad sign to have a death on the mountain, and they didn't know what to do. I called Camp 1 and Camp 2 to talk to Wan Zhu, probably one of their camp managers, and said, what should I do? The Sherpas don't want to go up. He told me that he thought the Sherpas would go, and then it occurred to me that Chen Yunan had died and we couldn't save him even if we did turn back. I thought things would be better if I could just reach the top. So we decided with the Sherpas that if the weather on May 10th was better, we would climb to the summit. But if the weather was still bad, we would turn back and climb down. More reasonable than some people's statements that day, that's for sure.
And probably if the mountain tribe Sherpas are sitting there being like, no, not a good idea, you should probably listen to them. This is his 19th time up the mountain, Sherpa Big John there. And he's going, no, I don't like this. Listen to that man.
Listen to that man. True.
Fun fact, and this really is a fun fact, the Hubble Space Telescope revealed images of Pluto's surface for the first time in 1996.
I think I remember that being talked about in school, actually. If I'm not wrong. And you would need a telescope to see what the hell was going on up here at 10 p.m.
Oh, yeah. Woohoo. Matt?
We're coming for you. 10 p.m. May 9th, the weather clears up, and the decisions made by Fisher and Hull to head for the summit. The wind had sort of died out at about 8 or 9 p.m. that evening, and it was absolutely quiet. It was a wonderfully clear night outside and bright stars and high skies and perfect for climbing, says Lena Gammelgard of Mountain Madness. And then Lucas Ishke says something similar. At 10 p.m., they follow a long line of headlands, slowly trudging crampon-clad feet, ogling the climbers who are clipped onto the pre-laid line that their Sherpas have established for them. Climbers continue on their journey to the summit, and the team leaders decide to abandon their original plan for their Sherpas to set off ahead of the climbers and fix ropes, which end up coming back to bite them. Surprise, surprise. The plan originally, says Neil Vitelman from Mountain Madness, again, he's one of the guides, I understood it, was that both Andorji and Lobsang, the two climbing leaders of the Sherpa, would leave camp at 10 p.m. and they would work together, making sure that the trail was broken and the ropes were in place. Both had been to the top numerous times. They knew exactly where the rope should go and what condition the old ropes should be in, where they might be, where the anchor points were. So we were using their experience from previous climbs to make sure that none of these bottlenecks would occur for our group as we came forward. It's one of the challenges of climbing Everest, especially if you're the first people up for the year, and they were. The trail is not necessarily broken in. There's not a path that's beaten in. So they're talking about using the ropes of the one of the teams who had just gone up right before them, which I get, but it's still kind of sketch. He goes on to say the trail is not necessarily broken in. There's not a path that's been beaten. The ropes are not fixed in place, and doing all of that at the same time that you're climbing to the summit for the first time adds more complexity. But the opposite side of that coin is that if you send strong enough people up there to fix those ropes beforehand, they may not recover enough to be able to be part of your team when you're going for the summit. So that's why Neil feels that the decision was made not to fix the rope. He says, so it was a reasonable plan for sure, and why Lobsang and Andorji didn't follow that plan, I still don't know for sure. No, but like you just said, for real, trust these people. Like, trust the Sherpas. They know what they're doing. If they're kind of not...
You said the point, like, the head Sherpa, he summited Everest many a time, so something that would be so breathtaking to any one of us, to him is just Thursday.
True.
Or Wednesday.
Wednesday. But I'm going to be referring to this as Wednesday the whole time now. Thank you very much.
Worst.
And then Andorji, one of the Sherpas from Mountain Madness, who actually I believe is still climbing as a Sherpa, says, we decide tomorrow we're going to summit. And then we talk a little bit about fixing line above Camp 4. And then I help with Scott Fisher's Sherpa, Lobsang Jambu. And then we sit together and we talk. Okay, we're going to fix. You and me, we're going to fix line tomorrow morning. We may need to leave here half an hour before the other people, and then we both talk. But next morning, he didn't come early, and then we had to go all together. So it sounds like there were miscommunications between the different teams. Climbers from all three teams have now entered the death zone, where the oxygen saturation is 1/3 of what it is at sea level.
Oh, God, once again, screams don't go there. It's
does.
Called the death zone.
And basically, I can just picture like Anubis up there, like waiting to weigh your heart. Like, all right, next.
Yep.
Come here, mortal. Come here.
Yeah.
Oh, You have a black spot. Flick him off the mountain.
Really oversimplified, but that's kind of how the Sherpas see it. You respect that mountain or it will fuck your shit up.
And even if you do respect it, it'll still fuck your shit up.
Yeah,
It's going to fuck your shit up.
it's going to, no matter what, but be respectful of it. They have all sorts of strictures and rules on how to respect it. Anyway, climbers then follow their long procession of headlamps, like I said, and that's how you see your way up to the next camp, following the line of headlamps in the dark. And my instinct, says Lena Gammelgard, from when I started climbing that night at the Southeast Ridge and for the rest of our summit bid and the way down, I was really in every, I think, cell of my body aware of the death zone. It's not just an expression. It's really where your body and your instinct and whatever might be left of your brain capacity up there due to the lack of oxygen, you really, really know that there's no margin for error. If you make the slightest error here, you're really going to die from it. And that's probably why we call it the death zone.
Yeah.
So Charlotte Fox, who is the climber who, by the way, I mentioned the other day, literally died falling down her stairs at home a couple
Oh my
years
God,
ago.
yes.
That's
It's so terrible.
tragic.
I know, so she obviously, unlike me, does not know how to fall without breaking your neck or something. But I love her. I have a lot of respect for her. But I will never know why a climber, not to blame her for what happened, but why wouldn't a climber? I'm a martial artist. I'm an athlete. I used to study martial arts, and I still have that muscle memory. Last night, I fell really hard in my shower.
Oh.
I really fell hard, actually, but it's so trained into my brain how to fall properly. I think it's something everyone should know. I'm just surprised that a climber wouldn't know that.
I wonder if she was juggling 15 things. I broke my toe walking down the stairs.
Okay, true.
Because, let's see, Lily was maybe 3 months old at the time, and the dog was so excited that we were home. She was running up and down the stairs around me as I'm walking down the stairs, and I have a baby. I'm trying not to step on the dog. I'm yelling at the dog, trying not to fall myself and trying not to drop the baby. I still ended up stepping on the dog, and I broke.
You might be right about that. And if you have something like a literal baby in your arms, or you're trying to dodge a dog, you're not just going to throw it like they say to do in martial arts. Sorry, baby.
Right. Right.
Yeah, you're not going to eat the child.
You'll bounce. It's fine. It's fine. You'll bounce. You don't have bones yet, really.
We do not advocate child abuse. Let's get that out.
Do not throw your babies.
Do not throw your baby. In 1996, in our hometown of Chicago, a boy fell into a gorilla pen at the Brookfield Zoo, and the gorilla saved him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cute. I love that. Aww.
That's cute.
Charlotte Fox, one of the Mountain Madness clients, says you start up the slippery slope of unconsolidated snow over downsloping shale, where you step up a step and you're back 2 steps. And sometimes your ice axe plunges in between rocks and kind of throws you off balance. Or 3 people just stop when you're getting kind of a rhythm. It's laborious. It's not very easy walking, and it's not like going to the bank to cash a check.
Record scratched 2 months earlier.
Right? It's like a sleepwalk. You just
right.
Sleepwalk.
God, that would be the worst sleepwalk.
What the fuck?
God, why am I so cold? God,
really
why
cold
can't I breathe?
What's happening? Right. And she said, she's like, that's basically the whole quote. It's you're trying to climb this thing. Every step forward, you're getting 2 steps back. You're sliding back down. Your ice axe goes into the wrong spot, throws you off balance. People in front of you stop. That throws you out of rhythm. The whole thing is just an unfortunate necessity that it has to be somewhat of a team effort, because you have to trust the people in front of you not to fuck everything up for you, basically. And on May 10th of 1996, around sunrise, they're still walking, remember. Concerned for their safety, team leader Rob Hall asked members of the combined Mountain Madness Adventure Consultants expedition to wait and to rendezvous at the point that they're at right now, as a traffic jam made up of members of the other teams attempting to summit that day has begun to form around them. Beck Weathers, about that says that when the sun first comes up, it's a very welcome thing. There's something about watching the light up the valley towards you, which is kind of like a friendly thing moving up. And you know it's going to give you warmth and it's going to give you light. It's going to give you that opportunity to go ahead and go up higher on some tougher terrain. You also know that it's going to start sucking some energy out of you because it can be awfully hot when you're out in the direct sunshine. It can just pull the strength out of you. And so the sun is both a friend and a foe at the same time. But it also is a clock, and you always are conscious of that notion of every 15 degrees an hour has gone by. You cannot be up there during that next night. And so you've got this clock working against you, and that starts to press upon you as you think, I've got to keep this moving, get there by this time so I can get back down safely. And that's Beth Weathers, who is with Adventure Consultants. Dawn comes, they're starting to get up there closer and closer. Everyone stops. Rob decides that they'll have to wait for a little bit because of the traffic jam. And then they get up to the balcony where, as Sandy Hill says, there were members of what I now know to have been Rob Hall's expedition. And it might have been members of other expeditions too. I'd had so little contact, says Sandy, with any of the other expeditions that were on the mountain that year, that even at that point, I was unable to identify where any of these other people came from. But there were people that were standing on the balcony, and the balcony is not a terribly large place. I was thinking it's a magnificent view from here, but at the same time, I was a little disappointed at how crowded it was there on that balcony, and disappointed that our team didn't have the balcony to ourselves.
God, you talked about mountaineers being catty. That explains it right here. Look at this view. Who the fuck is that guy?
So there's a very small window in which you can climb Everest.
Yeah,
because you want to do it early enough in the spring before a huge thaw starts. Because if you do it any later, that ice, what was it called? The ice field, it just basically turns into a river and you can't get over it or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's a very small window in which you can summit. And so you have to check the weather obsessively. To make sure to try to figure out when it's going to be safe to summit. So everybody was like, we're going to go this day, and you kind of have dibs. And I don't remember which team it was, but Mountain Madness and and the Adventurers were both like, hey, we're going to go this day. And another team was like, bitch, so are we. So see at the top.
The South Africans said that. They were like,
there it is. That's why.
Nightly Whiplash right now is stealing everybody's power bars.
Was like, eat my frost, bitches. So that's part of the reason that it turned into such a fucking problem, is because there's too many people up there.
Correct. And that's an issue nowadays. Somebody just 2 years ago, I think, COVID has kept it from being from being climbed the past year. But 2 years ago, a gentleman who was up there, and actually, interestingly enough, was able to Instagram from up there right by the Hillary Step, put up this beautiful Instagram post, but there were a ton of people there. And he's like, oh man, I'm really concerned about this traffic jam. This could result in people dying. Well, he dies later that day after Instagramming that, which is like, oof.
Thank God he wasn't alive when that happened.
We just, the year before last, John Oliver on Last Week Tonight did a whole special on everybody getting to the top of Everest. And he's like, what's the big deal? Here's a replica. You can borrow this.
I remember that. And he pretended to summit.
On October 1st, Animal Planet debuted, giving us such great shows as Crocodile Hunter and Buck Showalter's Animal Bites.
Oh, dude, I remember Animal Bites. It was all those bloopers.
Yes!
With a sassy commentary.
It was like, oh yeah, it was Buck Showalter's Animal Bites. Like, yeah, we watched that in the Algonquin kitchen on that old gray TV. We have a couple announcements, like what me and you were talking about, Dom. Do you have thirsty men in your life? Do you have people blowing up your DMs? Well, here at First Question, we are here for you. And if you give to our Patreon, get to watch this live, we will also sarcastically answer your thirsty messages live on air.
Oh, God,
hell yeah.
So much.
Do it. Send them in. Patrons, this is for you.
If they decide to retaliate, then we show their mothers what they're doing and their
Yeah.
grandmothers what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then we, emasculate them.
To the community, to the fans that keep us going. Let us handle your thirsty dudes.
I love
Yes.
it.
But
Like
Listen.
everybody knows that guy that you're just like, dude, leave me the fuck alone. Or
Right.
or this isn't sexist. Dudes, do you know a girl who's like, dude, leave me the fuck alone?
Mhm.
Let us handle it. Because we are sarcastic, I would say chaotic neutrals.
Oh, we're totally
agree.
chaotic neutral.
I agree.
You know what? I'm going to say we're chaotic good. We have our own set of rules.
Yes. Yeah, good. Thank you. That's better.
Follow us on all of the things and keep asking questions.
Hey, make your own reality.
And let the facts be your answers. Thanks for listening.